to be what? Responsible and in control of their own communications. So not only that they are able to say what they want to say, the way they wanted to say it, and when they want to say it, but also that they're responsible for what they say. You know, sometimes, I mean, the example of, okay, I say a bad word. Sure. The bad word is going to probably raise some emotional reactions and maybe other things. If the person says that, you repeat it. They are the ones that said it, they chose to say it right now for some reason, and they're responsible for that. So the effects of that are theirs, not yours as a doer. So you don't change the tone, you don't change it. It's their responsibility, and they're in control. They may be justified. It's their choice. What are the 5 steps for mediation? Remember? I know that you remember this. I made a picture. Do you remember?
Interpret what was just said.
Interpret, identify, mediate, report, and
Yeah.
So interpret what it was just said, right? Yeah, interpret what it was just said. Just said. What else?
Identify. Identify.
Identify what?
Oh, identify yourself as the interpreter.
So you identify yourself as an interpreter. What else?
mediate,
Mediate. What else?
Report.
What?
Report.
Report back the mediation. And
Resume.
pursue. Remember those 5 steps because that's going to be also the examination. Just, I think that the ones that we forget the most are that one because we just forget. As soon as we see that we need to mediate, we have decided that we need to mediate, we forget. Forget to say that. So interpret what was just said and you identify yourself. So you're saying over here, hey, you guys, I'm going to speak by myself now. This is me speaking, it's not you. That's what you do. Then you perform the mediation or whatever you need to do. Then you report it back, don't forget, the other side, and then you resume. Simple, easy technique. Then, how would you handle a term you don't know that it comes up during a session, and a term comes up? How do you handle it? That happened to me last week.
I guess.
Yeah.
Don't you just explain what it is? You don't know like the actual interpretation of the word. Just explain what it is.
But if you don't know what it is, how would you handle it?
so you would say the word, you would interpret the rest of the sentence, use the same word in the same context, and then go back and clarify.
That's a very good option. Yeah. Where's another answer? Could you read the answer for me? Yes. Yeah. That's another word, another good way. What else? One more. Right. And that also requires intervention, right? Because you may, I mean, if it's a terminology that you can, let's say it's a medical terminology, you can look it up. Or you can look at the expert who's actually speaking about it and ask for clarification.
Right. Sometimes you don't have coverage on your cell phone, or it's not in your paper dictionary that you're carrying. Then what do? It's not, the word is not anywhere close to you. You can't get the word. What do?
Yeah. But it is one of the answers. One is look at the dictionary, look at the terminology, look at your app. Well, that's one. There's another one. What happens if you don't know? You can say the word straight, the same way it was said, and wait for the person to say, what's that? And then you interpret what's up. You haven't intervened there. That you run the risk that, if you have to continue using that word, maybe it's a good idea to intervene and ask for clarification. Who do you ask clarification from? From the person where the term originated. I think most likely will know what that is. Maybe the other person who you're interpreting for will benefit from the explanation too, right? So So, there's many answers. Request a clarification. Use a dictionary. Check an electronic glossary. Clarify if you don't know how to interpret the term. Request that the speaker, gives another term or clarifies. Okay? Why shouldn't you explain a cultural misunderstanding yourself? Why is it that we do not recommend for you to say, just a minute, I think there's a cultural thing, let me explain to you what she means when she says that? Why shouldn't you do that?
Maybe you could be wrong.
Maybe you are wrong.
Yep.
Cause the patient is always yes, right?
Right, perfect.
Never is our forget this matter.
Right,
You're supposed to never assume, right?
you're not, you can't assume. Because you could be wrong, the answer says. You're taking away that person's voice, communicative autonomy. You're undermining the communicative autonomy, and you might be patronizing or paternalistic, trying to, let me tell you about this person, the culture, there. You could lead the other party to mentally stereotype the culture based on your information. And the stereotype originates in your stereotype now. Now we have 3 people potentially stereotyping themselves. Finally, what does it mean to identify or point out a cultural misunderstanding without explaining? Would you repeat that? What does it mean to identify or point out a cultural misunderstanding without explaining it?
Just always refer back to the patient.
Yep. A little more. Give me more.
Well, just, like I said, put everything back in their court, I guess, and them,
So you don't ask, right?
clarify.
You don't ask?
No, it would be a redirection.
Yes. Because remember, the minute you ask, then you're controlling the situation. Like you're pointing out. The interpreter believes that it might be a cultural misunderstanding.
And then you redirect it to.
You're not asking any question. You're just stating. You're pointing it out. So the interpreter believes, and then now you let the discussion happen. There. What else? The question? Yeah. What does it mean to identify or point out a cultural misunderstanding without explaining it? What does it mean to point it out without explaining it?
Assuming, right? That you're assuming, so that's you bias.
It is an art to point out without explaining.
So that's basically, that's the definition of redirecting, that's how I look at it, right?
You could be redirecting, or you can just state something and let the discussion happen. Because what you're doing, when you point out something, is to facilitate the cultural communication. But you're not saying, let me explain something to you.
Like the
Let me
interpreter
just
believes that
tell-
there might be a cultural misunderstanding. Why don't we ask Mrs. Coronel? That might be. Acabo de decir que,
Correcto. Dice aquí, you identify a cultural barrier by stating what you see that is causing a misunderstanding. For example, you could say the interpreter senses a misunderstanding about what is hot and cold foods are, what hot and cold and hot foods are to both parties, and lets the doctor ask what the patient thinks about hot and cold foods. In other words, you facilitate the cultural discussion. You don't explain anything or speak for the patient, the client. there's two of them. We need more copies?
Yeah.
We need, can you take more? Couple more, thank you. This is just for your referral for the exam later. Basically, it is important to not assume that, if this is an art, it takes a little practice. That's why it takes a little work before you actually say something. Think about it before you say it, so that you are not either explaining or you're not asking questions that are not helpful. Questions can also speak about our own biases. For example, I'm in a session and I say, I'm intervening. The interpreter believes that this person is very machista. Why did you ask these questions regarding that? So how do we, if you believe that there's some, okay, this guy is speaking for her, and she's not able to speak or answer to the doctor, and there might be some of that culture behind, and you're observing this, and you're seeing it, you wanna do something about this, why should you do this, is the doctor not being able to see this cultural thing, how is this dynamic playing? Should I intervene? Are the risks of not intervening, more than the risk of not doing anything? Or the dangers of not doing anything, or staying quiet. So if I decide, how do I say the same thing without saying, I believe he's a machista and he's speaking with her, and how do I say that?
That's a really difficult one because I run across that so many times where I feel like the woman was so afraid to even speak. She keeps looking at her husband to answer for her. And it's really difficult because I didn't mediate in either situation because I felt like it was up to the provider to notice that it was the fear in her eyes that he should have noticed and he should have caught, and I felt like it wasn't my place to say it.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Should you intervene in that situation?
I didn't. I don't know if I did.
Is it cultural? At what point is a cultural way of behaving related to religion or just the way that people are raised? At what culture it becomes or endangers the client? At what point you believe that the person there's something that is endangering this person? It's a very fine line. If you make a decision about that, just be sure. Because if it's a cultural thing, it's a cultural thing. It's not your place to say, hey, you shouldn't be machista.
Right.
Unless, you know that that person is being threatened. That there's some violence or something, that her voice, then be sure. And if that's the case, by all means. But then be careful.
But the proper way to handle that, would that be like after the conversation or after?
Well, depending, what kind of appointment we're speaking at. Right?
I'm saying in that situation, because I'm still thinking about it, like, oh my God, did I do the right thing? Like,
well, explain your situation. Explain what was happening without giving names or anything like that.
well, I mean, it was a postpartum situation where I walked in and it looked like she was just getting done crying.
What was the appointment about?
It was just a postpartum. She had just had a
Postpartum.
baby.
Okay.
So I walked in the room and it looked like she was just crying. You could clearly see her face was still down. And then as she was talking, she was a little shaky, and every time, she would ask him before she would respond to the provider. So you can clearly see it was something, I don't know exactly. I can't say for sure what it was. Sometimes after we have babies, we're a little emotional too, so I can't say for sure, but.
And why were you there? Like, what were you interpreting for?
It was just for the doctor, I can't remember.
And they were coming to the hospital with the baby, or was
No,
it
they were
inside the
already there,
hospital?
she had just had the
She
baby.
just had the baby. So, I would say, when you as the interpreter, are interpreting, for example, for a doctor or a nurse, and you observe dynamics that are concerning. First of all, if you're in the room with them and you hear something, you should be interpreting what you hear. And somebody should be listening to that interpretation so that they are getting what you're getting. We should not have been in the position where we're listening to something that we're not interpreting. You know, that's ideally not the situation that should happen. But if you observe something, if you see something, if there's genuine concern, you have to disclose it, because when it's about bringing somebody else, yourself, or just threat of violence in general, or themselves, then you have to say something. So yeah, it is okay to say, you know, I am concerned about this person, I don't know, but I wonder if you can have somebody assess the situation and ask some questions. That is okay, but yeah, remember, when in doubt, stay out. Because it could very well, you said it very well, like a mother after having a child, I have had to, and we're total, like, emotional rock, like I couldn't sleep because I wanted, you know, my daughter, whenever she went like, I was like, she really, I was a total wreck. Couples have issues. They hurt each other sometimes with words and actions without wanting. We get offended. We all know these. Conflict is not a crime. People cry. People say sorry. It becomes a problem when there's violence, when there's threat, when there's control, when there's power. So, in a society where we haven't talked about these things, then it is important to know, to bring it out. You also remember there is privacy and certain things that we need to be very careful about. So that's why I would say, if in doubt, just stay out. I think you did the right thing. I think that staying out is okay. I think it's all right. Hopefully, at the hospital, when you have a baby, they also do an assessment. They ask you questions. You know, are you safe? Do you need anything for your kid? Do you want any information? Do you want a nurse in your house? Do you feel safe at home? Do you feel that anybody is threatening you? You know, all these things that they usually do, and they have to do it without the husband or the significant other there. That's part of the protocol. They do it more than once. If I am not mistaken, I don't know, Wendy, if you know, but the formulario de trabajo social se da 2 veces, ¿no? Cuando la persona ingresa y cuando está saliendo. Yeah, at least, usually. So I would say when in doubt, stay out. But there are certain times where it can be also cultural. He's the one that speaks in your culture, and she doesn't. And she feels very uncomfortable when she has to answer. That happens in certain Muslim countries. He's the one that speaks and the women do not.
Él es el que él navega con todo. Que él firme, yo no quiero firmar.
Yeah, and the nurse should say, I'm sorry, but you have to. Because in the US, the husband cannot sign the birth certificate. Sorry. They can't. It's the law. So you don't want to feel, nobody can sign for you. But I know that my husband says, you sign for me whenever there's forms or whatever. So sometimes we try, depending on the dynamics, be very careful. Because remember, we come with our educated minds. Machismo es malo, eso no está bien, no. El hombre no puede ser así.
It's so prominent in our culture.
It's so prominent.
So prominent. It's
Pero,
so hard to know, like, when it's actually, like, real violence, and then when it's just, like, machismo.
Bueno, y creo que hablando un poco de la cultura machista y la marianista, no el otro lado, tienen mucho de violencia metida dentro de eso, ¿no? Pero está mezclado con idiosincrasia, es un sincretismo así mezclado con religión, tiene mucho que ver también con cómo nos miramos, con nuestras identidades no solamente de las coloniales, de lo que vino de España, sino también las identidades de las naciones originales. Entonces, es complicado, creo que está casado con la cultura y es difícil a veces romperlo, pero creo que la mejor forma es a través de relaciones y de la educación, ¿no? De cómo manejamos estas interacciones. Yo sé, por experiencia propia, trabajando aquí en el Centro Hispano, en el área de violencia doméstica, cuando una mujer no está lista para tomar una decisión por sí misma, no hay nada que te haga hacer algo diferente. ¿Y sabes cuántas veces en promedio toma para que una persona finalmente diga, yo soy víctima de violencia doméstica? 7 veces, 7 incidentes en promedio a nivel nacional. En promedio, 7 veces de contacto con alguna persona, de alguna trabajadora social, enfermera, gestora social, lo que sea, 7 veces en promedio, para que finalmente la persona diga, I can't do this anymore.
Y luego aún todavía retroceder para atrás.
Y así es, así es. Pasa también con otros sistemas, como por ejemplo, si estás trabajando con personas que tienen uso de sustancias o abuso de sustancias. So, ese patrón, when you're a provider, you have to know that one of the things that you have to kind of handle is that this person is going to fall and they're going to come back and fall and come back and fall and come back, and then eventually they will make some progress. But that's part of your job. You need to know that, otherwise you become discouraged. So as an interpreter, just remember, you're there to interpret. Only when they're threatening violence for themselves or somebody else, sometimes property, then you do something about it. But if you're in doubt, stay out. Okay, that's our review. You check those little things, and now we're going to have Mr. John Brown. You got applause?
I want to address your while we're getting this course, I want you guys to introspectively a little bit about the first time that you interpreted for somebody, whether it was professional or just for your friends and family. Why did you do it? Why did you say yes, I'll do it? What is it about that made you feel that you wanted to? Why do you want to work with it? Whether it's for free or for nothing. In fact, I think you should just take a moment to write it. If you have a notepad or something to write notes on, write that somewhere at the top of some page that's important to you. Write the reason that you interpret. And it's your own personal. Especially when you think about the first time you helped somebody, or you did this for someone. What was the element that, or why, think about the reason you came here to this class. What was the reason that you wanted to get into interpretation? could not imagine not being able to communicate on my own. And every time you question, why am I doing this? Refer back to that and remind yourself, and that helps you eventually. It helps you go and it helps you continue during difficult times. So if you wrote that down or kept it as your mantra or your mantra, yeah, basically, your thing. Anybody else have a very specific reason from the heart as to what you have chosen to help to do what you do?
I was very small when I started interpreting, but it was for missionaries that were coming to South America to do work in the community. And usually they had to do with, all the time spiritual things because they're Christian, but they're doctors, dentists, or surgeons. And as a child, I did a little bit of it's ridiculous, but as a child, still interpreting for medical, it's crazy, but I felt good about it, about myself. Like I felt I'm doing something good, and I felt that I was somebody in the community, and I was able to do these skills. And over the years, I had to question that a little bit, but that's what it felt as a child. I felt it work.
And that's basically that has a lot to do with what this chapter 4.1 is really about. It's about how you feel and how you learn to keep that in check. You learn, it's almost a balance between pride and humility. We feel proud that we can do this thing, we can help people, and it makes us feel important. But keeping in mind that our pride can sometimes lead us to not study hard because we know everything already, and that's a balance that we get into. And so this is this page 275 basically refers to how to put things in balance, knowing what our values are. And that goes back to a reason, a very personal reason for which you're doing this interpreting. Everything you do might just come from that introspection, that thought of who am I and why am I doing this? Why am I here doing this interpretation job? It's affected by our values. Our values, our belief system, whether it be religious or just morals, balanced with the legal requirements of the profession. I don't want to belabor too much about legal requirements. I think we all know that you have to be 18 it's pretty much been outlined as to what is required to be an interpreter. The professional ethics and the standards of practice. I want to pass. I don't know if you guys all have a copy of this. I'm sure you guys all are familiar with the CHI or the NCIHC, the standards of practice, the CHI test. Are you guys familiar with this for healthcare interpreting? This is really considered the Bible for
And I can show you where you can find it now that, but I will have to give you and I'll show you where you can find it easy in the web. You can download it or maybe.
And the standards of practice refers to the ethics, the ethical part of that circle. You notice that there's a part that, that they all come together in the middle. Your values, your legal requirements, your knowledge, and your ethics. Basically, first started out, I bought a book similar to this one. And I made sure that before I even took an interview with any company, I made sure I knew every single word in this glossary, and it's still not enough. This is just the start, and this is how many pages in this glossary? It's about 40 pages, about 40 pages of terms. And I don't know how many terms per page, but it's about 700 words, maybe 1,000. And that's just a start. You know, it's good to study physiology, or like, it's good to study anatomy if you're going into medical. How many people are in medical right now? Yeah. So I'll pass this around, you can take a peek at this glossary. And this book, a lot of books at the bookstore will say complete Spanish or everything you need to know. This is not even a pinch of it. This is a tiny, tiny drop. But it's a good start. It's a very strong place to start if you know every single word in this before you go on. That's what it requires. So in terms of identity, to me, the biggest part of being able to call myself an interpreter is knowing those words really, really well so that they pop out of my mouth immediately. When I hear in English, it comes out of Spanish, or when I hear Spanish, it comes out of English. And I want to also pass this from this end. This is illegal. This is not really, you can just take a look at the words and then pass it, just to get an idea as to what kind of expectation exists in the industry. Look at that until you see a word that you don't recognize, and then say, okay, this is how hard I have to study. Because to me, my identity is part of my identity and who I believe I am as an interpreter is a hard worker. I believe that working like crazy is the only way that I can call myself an interpreter. You just study those words and use different techniques, do different memory techniques. Yes.
What do you got to be an interpreter?
What's that?
What's the value? What's your value? Like how you're an interpreter?
Values as an interpreter, that's a good point. We bring our values with us. We have certain values, we all have possibly a little bit different values. It's kind of, we can have cultural values, things that we were taught since we were little, what we believe is right and wrong, and they can influence us. Values and beliefs, they can work for us and they can work against us. The biggest problem with our values is that our biases can cause us to go down paths that conflict with the ethics. And when I say ethics, I'm talking about professional ethics. We have our own ethics, our personal ethics, and then there's the professional ethics. Sometimes those two don't mix. Sometimes they do, most of the time. Most of the time, if we have a good heart, we're going to do the right thing. Sometimes if we have a good heart, we do the wrong thing. That's where this national standards of practice in terms of healthcare interpreting comes in handy. We really need to study this as well as the words. It's not very long. It's I think the 11 pages, something like that. But this is something that is really basically considered the Bible of the industry. It is something that we study and know. And I'll read briefly the 11 ethical principles. I think there are 8. The 8 ethical principles. Number 1, interpreters strive to render the message accurately, conveying the content and spirit of the message, taking into consideration cultural context. And I'm sure that you can remember Sarah saying a million times, no additions, no say fuga. We wouldn't do that. We say it's not
Or if
that.
they don't say thank you, don't say thank you, because sometimes we do that.
Well, yeah, then there's an addition. And there are, or if you slip, make sure you're transparent. If you say thank you, or if they say God bless you, you can say God bless you or whatever. But make sure that the provider hears this first. Always interpreting for the provider. Because who do we identify with? We're interpreting for two people. We're interpreting for the community. And we're interpreting for the professional, the healthcare professionals, or the legal system. But when we show up in court, who do we identify with? And that's are we more on the side of the client, the defendant, or are we more on the side of the judge or the court system?
Whoever hired you.
Well, that's one way to look at it, but you know what? It's almost right in the middle, because we're neutral.
I was about to say, that's
Although-
true, yes,
That's
are
true.
we unbiased?
Yeah.
Right, your biases, and we want to be as neutral as we can, but how do we dress? We're a man, we wear a tie and a suit and sit like, and look like the lawyers. We show up looking like a lawyer. And women can wear suits too, and there's a little more flexibility with women. But I've known female court interpreters who have been scolded or, by the judge saying, you shouldn't wear that in the courtroom. So even though there's more flexibility with women, there are certain things that judges won't tolerate, like a lot of color red or bright colors and a tight fitting dress, something like that. It's kind of obvious if you look at lawyers and female lawyers and the way female lawyers dress. Kind of model yourself for that, because judges can go crazy. In fact, they can even find you in contempt of court, which is a little dangerous. But I don't want to get off on that tangent too quickly. I want to talk about.
Wait, what happened?
For a tight dress, you can get
Yeah, I didn't know there was like a dress code.
There is, yeah, there is.
Just for legal?
For legal.
Okay.
Yeah, here in court. Yeah, here in court. It wasn't that bad, but he warned her. He gave her a warning. Said, if you show up again, that's contempt of court. If you show up like that again, it's contempt of
What's she
court.
wearing?
Because it was an ongoing court case, and she was gonna be there every day. And
Yeah.
I don't know, she told me that, I wasn't there, but she told me about this. And she said, yeah, just because, and it was a red dress. And he said, the judge said that, it was too tight, and it was a little more sexy than it was professional. And so that's the
She
balance.
should've known. Just distracting everyone.
If the dress or what you're wearing is a distraction, then the judge will expect you to report. In most cases, you want to be, if you go to court, it is the highest level of professionalism, so anything closer to suit is preferable. When I'm doing a court interpretation and it's a trial, I'm in a suit, high heels, suit, white starch blouse, very, very professional. If I'm just going into something else that is law related, it's still probably dress, skirt, blouse, very, very professional. But you also have to know if you're going to jail, for example, I used to do cases in New York. You need to know what is and what's not allowed in jail. So nothing that was tight, certain colors were not allowed to go into the jail. Why? Simply because the uniforms of the prisoners were a similar color. And it would be easy to exchange clothes. So they're thinking of all these security measures. It has to do with a higher level of understanding of why it's going on. So I always check, what are they allowing? What do they wear? What do the guards prefer us to wear, what not to wear? And when I used to go down into the tubes in New York, we knew, because I used to work in the prosecutor's office, we knew what do you need to wear, what do you not wear. Never any jewelry, never anything that can be pulled.
Simple things
because I was probably on my own, I was working as a prosecutor, so she wanted me to take documentation, because I also spoke Spanish, I would also get dragged with attorneys down there. But it was just a safety issue, it was one thing about it, making sure that always be professional. I was in a courtroom, and this attorney from California, and she looked like a model, let's put it that way, a very well-endowed model, and she came in wearing a red leather suit. In California, that was okay, and she was in the Los Angeles Hollywood area, that's what they got away with. She got a yeah, and she was asked to leave, the case was adjourned, and she had to pay. So if the judge will do that to an attorney, guess what? Right.
Does everyone understand the term contempt of court? That means the judge can say, you go to jail. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. How come I've never heard of this before? Like, ever in my life? This is crazy.
It is, it's something that's very, 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 very serious in the court, So you wanna stay within the lines while respecting who you are, and recognizing who you are, and almost, to me, it's almost, I kind of, in the beginning of this chapter, it says, who am I as an interpreter? I am an interpreter, and this is what I am as an interpreter. I don't know if I agree with that statement. I don't want to define myself as an interpreter, because I know that in my home life, I don't think of myself as an interpreter. I'm not an interpreter permanently. I don't dress. This is the sloppiest that I'll dress as an interpreter. I mean, when you show up, this is the most casual you wear for men anyway. Khakis instead of black or gray or blue pants. This is the most casual that I would allow myself to dress, because with one exception, I mean, it depends on the form. If you're interpreting for a mental health care agency that is dealing with homeless people, sometimes they actually ask you to wear blue jeans. They'll say, will you please wear blue jeans? Because our clients, where they dress down, we want them to be comfortable. But if you're interpreting for a psychiatrist who's dealing with homeless people, they're still going to dress in a suit or in very nice clothes to emphasize that their level of professionality is something that the client can trust. There's a certain respect level that you gain by dressing very, very professional. But there's also trust that you want to rapport, that certain levels of workers want to forge or form with their clients. So if you have a caseworker who's wearing blue jeans with a homeless person who's wearing blue jeans or something else, then it's okay to wear blue jeans normally. You don't want to do that every day, but in fact, it doesn't come up every day. And when I dress down, I don't wear blue jeans because I know that I have to go somewhere else. So I'll wear something like this. This isn't very fancy, it's not very high level, but it's enough. It's in the middle. It's not too good, it's not too bad. So as far as dress code, I want to talk about dress code a little bit. If you want to flip to page 277, the blue book, it talks a little bit about dress code. In the middle of the page, it says that professional appearance code, cigarette odors, if you're a smoker or if you live with a smoker, be aware that that smell's going to be in your hair and on your clothes. Avoid strong scents like cologne or like perfume, something like that. In fact, a lot of hospitals will say, do not wear any. Some hospitals have a policy saying, do not wear any cologne, no perfume, nothing. Deodorant is okay. okay. Other than that, don't wear anything, because why would they do that? Anybody know? Lotions would
It's just
smell.
offensive to people, or some people have allergies.
That's exactly what it is. It can be offensive, but it's mainly because of allergies. People's throats can start closing up when they smell that stuff. And it's real. So that's one, and as for other professional, settings, I know people that do it anyway, but,
Showering, perfume.
but it's just a matter of knowing who you are, but then knowing also how you fit in, and empathy, like Wendy was saying, having empathy for everyone around you and the profession. Once again, the number 3 is tight, see-through clothing, thin clothing. That seems kind of obvious, but it's not always obvious. We don't know we're wearing tight clothing sometimes. We think it's normal, and so it's very important to look at what professionals are wearing and try to do as they're doing, because it's not just that they're paying us; it's that we are a member of their team, and so that's the team that we're helping them. We're on their team, and we have to show that we're a member of the team, and keeping in mind that we're a neutral party. Casual or sloppy or inappropriate dress. Word casual means like, not, what do you say? It's just kind of like
Your everyday wear.
your everyday wear, right? And a lot of people call what I'm wearing casual, but it's to a level it's acceptable. You can go into a hospital. You don't want to go into a lawyer's office looking like this, though. You want to wear a darker color and a tie, maybe if you're a man. Not always a tie. If you don't wear a tie, at least a blazer. Something to show that you're an intermediary that is on his team. The open-toed shoe thing. This gets people in trouble. Sandals or even shoes that are kind of like sandals, where the toe is not covered. Like anybody know why, like in a hospital setting, why that would absolutely not. Liability and OSHA.
Like the shoes I'm wearing here, I have my nice shoes in the car, I forgot to put them on for this class. This would not be acceptable at all.
And what's the worst thing that can happen, or why would they care about that?
Those sandals, you can just hit them and, oh my, it hurts.
Yeah, there's that.
You can get body
Yeah.
And the worst thing that can happen is if a needle falls. Or a used needle falls. And it can happen. And so they want at least something to prevent that needle from sticking you. And because if a needle sticks you, they have to send you to the health department. You have to do a bunch of testing, including AIDS. Then you start wondering, well, could this person have AIDS? What could they have? And now it's in the.
And then they have to test the patient too.
Yes, and it is a giant conversation. You have to immediately leave the premises and go to the health department if you can. And if they're closed, you have to go the next day. You have to prove that you went the next day. You have to, then it's a big, you feel, and I know people that this has happened to, not the fee. You can get stuck in other ways too. Beware of these.
The other thing is personal hygiene.
Yes, that's the last thing on the list. Personalizing personal. Yeah, so hygiene, meaning stay clean and prepare really what you do. But it's obvious to everybody in this room. But you're gonna run into people that, and we're gonna all have moments. We all have moments where our We are all susceptible. So the main focus of this, chapter really can be summed up in a little, like a globe on page, 278. There's basically, a world, there's a world around us, and then there's a center of the world, and the center of the world is knowing who you are. It's the core of what affects everything else. Who we are, and then what we do, and how who we are is going to affect what we do. Who we are is, I think, that refers to the values part. The values part, I think, refers to who we are. How we take that and understand the code of ethics. Sometimes the code of ethics is a little bit outside of our own values. But the code, yeah, the code of ethics is this national standards of practice that's in healthcare interpreting. So the code of ethics has to do with strategy to render the message exactly and accurately. There's another. I'm going to read off all these. Interpreters treat as confidential within a treatment team all their duties and requirements, and all of the things they observe while they're in session, and observing the relevant requirements for disclosure. What is disclosure? It means talking about it. We can't divulge any information about that stuff unless we're required. The word confidentiality is a little bit, it's a strange concept because we can't really guarantee total confidentiality to a patient. There are cases where we're required to break confidentiality. If the patient is a threat to himself or others, then that's no longer confidential. They can't go to the police if someone comes in threatening to kill everybody in ER. And that's not confidential. It's so to respect patients' rights to confidentiality or to privacy is different than guaranteeing total confidentiality and privacy. So in my pre-session, I like to say I will respect patients' right to privacy. Respecting their right to privacy is a legal right. They have a legal right to privacy, but there are limits to their right to privacy. So instead of saying everything's confidential, which is not exactly true. A lot of agencies will tell you, just tell them everything's confidential, and that's what we do. But it's not true. There are limits. So I changed the way I say that to everything, not everything's confidential. I say I will respect the patient's right to privacy. Another ethical standard is interpreters will strive to maintain impartiality and refrain from counseling. Refrain from counseling. What does that mean? It means no matter how much they ask us, what do you think? What should I do? We have to shut up. This is where the conflict comes in between our values and the ethics. They want to talk to us about herbal remedies, and you've heard of a great herbal remedy, and you want to tell this patient, oh yeah, my mother drank this Monsanto tea, and it worked well for her headaches and her troubles, and we can't say it. We just have to bite our tongues when it comes to feeling like a human being. Sometimes we go into robot mode, we lose our values and we lose ourselves. We turn ourselves off almost. That's where we, there's a conflict in this chapter that I'm talking about where we want to identify ourselves as professional, but what does it mean to be professional? How am I going to feel that I'm a professional? And what are what is a professional interpreter to me? And how do I fit into that? For me, I lean very, very heavily on, like I said, the code of ethics and the knowledge part and the legal requirements. And I try to forget who I am, mostly. I try to not bring myself into it. And so it's as if, who are you as an interpreter? I try to think of myself as not an interpreter. I'm a guy who goes home and I go running, I do this and I do that. That's my identity. I feel that I work as an interpreter, and when I work as an interpreter, I lose myself. I'm becoming a part of this team, and I'm not really me. I have to be better than me. I have to be better than who I am when I become part of this team. I have to elevate my game because people are depending on me to do that. They're depending on me to have knowledge. They're depending on me to have everything right, to study all those glossaries and even more, study as much as I can, and to make that knowledge automatic. To comply with the legal requirements of the job, and to comply with the code of ethics, the ethics that say, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, and I'm not going to talk about this patient, even though it's really, really interesting what's happening here. Interpreters will treat all parties with respect, and what does that mean? There's that, and basically to straddle between the both parties, you're basically showing respect by keeping yourself on it, keeping your morals on it, keeping your not interjecting your own feelings. That's with the exception of advocating, yes, you do. That's where your morals do come in. That's where your morals do take the front seat, and the rest of it takes a back seat just for a moment. Interpreters will strive to develop awareness of cultures encountered during performance. Knowing that when you're in a room and you hear a patient speaking to his or her husband, or in a different language, so they're speaking mom or Che or some other. This woman's from Guatemala. She speaks a little bit of English, but she wants an interpreter. She speaks a little moderate Spanish, but how do you know this? The only way, one of the cues is to you're talking to her husband, and you can respect her culture by, first of all, we interpret all side conversations. So if there's a conversation between a wife and a husband, not that you're a husband, but just in this example, then whatever they're saying to each other, we're interpreting to the profession, to whoever's in the room, because we interpret everything that's said, including a side conversation. But if it's in a different language, I as interpreter, cannot interpret what's being said. Patients speaking a different language, and then say the same thing with the patient. I, the interpreter, cannot interpret what he said because you're speaking a different language. What language is it? Very often the provider will say, well, what language is that? Oh, it's mom. Okay, so, well, what do you speak more? Do you need a mom interpreter, or do you want a Spanish interpreter? answer is, yeah, if you have a mom interpreter, they would be better. There are situations, in fact, in certain hospitals where they have access to telephone interpreters, or there are little iPads. I don't know if you're familiar with the iPad that used for intercommunication. They will access a remote interpreter who could be in California or somewhere, but they talk over the phone, or they talk over the pantalla, what do you call it, the little iPad screen. They can possibly get a better interpreter than you. So there are certain situations where we recuse ourselves because there's a better option. So understanding cultures, and even the fact that in certain cultures there are different languages that might not, we might not be the best option for that. The interpreter maintains boundaries of the professional role, refraining from personal involvement. And that's, this talks to this goes to advocacy and transparency. And what does the word transparency mean to you guys? Have you guys heard it a million times in this class? So what do you think of transparency? See-through, right? Everyone knows everything about what's being said. And so if we, once again, it goes back to keeping our values in check, making sure that our personal values, the ones that we're using, are the ones that agree with the legal requirements. Our personal values agree with the knowledge that we have from all the things that we study. That our personal values agree with the code of ethics of the industry. Ethics refers to professional. Not our personal ethic. We have our personal ethic and then the professional ethic. So I should say professional ethics and standards of practice for the industry. Sometimes our values and professional ethics are difficult to balance. Keeping ourselves neutral like a robot, it's very hard sometimes. But that's what we do most of the time, almost all the time. If you have any, like Sarah said earlier, if you have any question as to whether you should intervene as an advocate, then the answer is probably no. If you're not sure, then the answer is probably no, I shouldn't. Keep interpreting, and that situation will probably resolve.
Cultural awareness.
Yeah, right, cultural awareness. And let's go to the next principle. When the patient's health and well-being and dignity is at risk. Dignity. Dignity is a big word. Remember this word. I think it's on a test too. Not this test, but the CHI test when you get certified. Dignity, the dignity of the patient is something that we need to be aware of. And for example, if the interpreter intervenes on behalf of a patient, if they have a life-threatening allergy or a condition that has been overlooked. The patient told the nurse, the first nurse that comes in, I'm allergic to penicillin, I'm allergic to aspirin. And then the doctor comes in and says, so what are your allergies? Oh, I'm allergic to dust and mold, pollen. Pollen gives me a lot of allergies. That's it. That's what he says. And he doesn't talk about the medication allergies. He talks about his ambient allergies. And so the doctor might just
Say Ambien or Ambien?
ambient, like the maybe I'll get the allergies in the environment, environmental allergies. So Now, you've got to hope that the nurse charted that and that the doctor read the chart. But that's not always the case. And so instead of saying, but doctor, the nurse said, or he just told the nurse that he's also allergic to aspirin and penicillin, what would we do? If we don't want to take that approach, how do we bring the doctor's attention? The doctor says, do you have any allergies? Dust and mold. So how do you work that?
Redirect it, back to the patient, asking them, the patient is having medication allergy.
It's very good, but we don't want to put those words into the doctor's mouth. I would go to the doctor first, get the doctor to clarify, because the doctor wasn't clear. The doctor didn't say medication allergies. So ask the doctor, could you clarify? When you say allergies, what are you referring to? Or even more specifically, maybe I'm pushing it a little too far when I do this, but I will say a yes or no question to the doctor. I will say, when you say allergies, are you referring to medication allergies? And then I interpret that to the patient. Cuando dice alergias, está diciendo alergias a los medicamentos. And so that everyone's on the same page, you maintain total transparency. And then the doctor has the opportunity to say, oh, yes, medication allergies. That gives you the doctor gives you the opportunity. You can say, when you say allergies, what are you referring to? But that's basically that's the ethical way of approaching the intervention. Now there's one final question that I want to. The book raises a good question as to, I like this last question on page 172 of the purple book. It says, after reading this section, or after, do you consider yourself a professional interpreter and why? Well, actually, I want to back up to this question 3. Define professional and unprofessional. So start thinking of what professional and unprofessional is, and we've touched on it a little bit. Professional is someone who adheres to the professional ethics while being aware of their own ethics that might conflict with the professional ethics, and supporting this with knowledge and observing the legal requirements. So we've touched on it a little bit, but that's really the main focus of this chapter, is to put that in a balance. What is professional and what is unprofessional? And if you can identify all the things that are unprofessional, or at least some of them, and we know that dress code is one of the ways we can be professional or unprofessional. Making sure our knowledge is very, very strong is another way we can be very professional. Complying with the legal requirements. Basically, that's too wide of an area for me going to the legal requirements, because some agencies will require that you never have had any misdemeanor, and some say no felonies. Some don't care. Some say, well, yeah, you committed a felony, but it was this, it's not that, and we need you, so work. So their legal requirements vary, but we do know that you have to be 18. You should be bilingual, but even that, as a legal requirement, there's just an ethical requirement there. It's not really written in the law. So yeah, that's just the last thought I wanted to go ourselves when we step out of ourselves and we step into the profession. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So throughout the time, I remember the first time I did this training, we were not using these. John helped me, and I was just starting. John helped me to define what is a professional entrepreneur. John and Jose Castillo, they both helped me. Also, at that time it was also Victor Joaquin, and Maria wasn't here yet, but I remember trying to define in my own words what these meant. And we created this with an intern that was from Michigan State University. At the time she was an intern, then she became the translations coordinator, and she took that department to the next level. She's a PhD, now professor of UTEP, University of Texas, Laura Gonzalez. She herself had students in Michigan State, and they created this. And it's just a little reminder of certain things that you, like every day. So take a look. What do you think? I remember that at the time, they put high heels on this person. And that's why you can see those shoes don't kind of match. They're made actually for high heels. They had to redo it. And then we took them out because, why do you think we took them out? Right? When you think about a professional, sometimes we think about high heels and, I'm sorry, I'm wearing this. I forgot. I had my shoes in the car. Then once I have it, it's okay. I like this one's better. But speaking about how we feel, how comfortable we feel in the hospital, people wear tennis shoes. Tennis shoes to go, they have to wear scrubs and tennis shoes or something comfortable. Think about it, if you're gonna be on your feet the whole time, why do we wear high heels again? Answer me. Why? For interviews, yes, and why do we do it? Like, think about it. I don't know if you have
To look professional.
to look professional, but yes. I went to the Grand Rapids Museum the other day. I'm sorry? Where? No. I went in my regular shoes. As I was coming in, there were some shoes from China. Go to the Grand Rapids Museum one of these days. When you go to the little village that they have, there's some shoes and rare stuff. And there's these shoes from China that are very weird. They used to wrap their feet. It was a sign of beauty. For the aristocrats in China, they were supposed to have a very good feet. Yeah. And there's one of these shoes, tiny little feet in one side, and in the other side, there's a pair of high heels. And in the bottom, it says, which practice is more weird? What do you think about it? Why do we wear high heels anyway?
But I also think it's also a state of mind by this point. I mean, with shoes, like whenever you go somewhere, the first thing that they'll see is the shoes. And sometimes for us, even for us, like if we wear high heels, now we feel more sexy, or we feel more empowered.
I know that I am feeling pretty weird right now in front of you with these sandals. I know I feel weird right now because I'm not wearing my
Even though
high
we're not
heels.
looking at them, you still have.
I still feel weird because I have my high heels in my car. I was supposed to do these and then put them on and then come into class. I forgot because there was Miss Antonia was waiting there. Miss Antonia me despistó.
What I wanted to go over was the history of the high heel. The high heel was originally made to make the woman's muscles in her legs stand out more for the purpose of attracting a man, and to have the back stand at a greater angle. However, the doctors have said that high heels cause more damage to a woman's back and foot muscles. So it is a kind of torture that women do
To ourselves.
more beautiful, and that society has put.
And then think about it. Do you feel fabulous when you have a pair of high heels
I
down
do.
the street?
I
I
see
do.
the pain, they don't see the pain, they just see the pain.
Miss Holly Rhea from downstairs, she
Oh,
has
her.
the
That's
gorgeous
right.
high heels, and when she goes with her high heels, it's like,
She
hi,
has
gorgeous.
some yellow high heels, they're beautiful.
forma de caminar.
She
She has
goes
so much.
running around with them.
She's an artist.
Las narices en alto.
Now, be honest, you guys, Danny and John, be honest.
Honest.
Do you love a woman
And
in high heels?
Yes.
Are you high heels?
No? You don't?
I don't.
Does it call
Cultural
your
difference.
attention if she's gorgeous and she's wearing her high heels?
Yeah, even
Yes.
It
It does,
was on it.
because, no, because, yeah.
So, what I'm trying to say is,
When you think of a woman dressed up, she's dressed up in high heels.
Right.
yeah, I remember when I was 15, in the fiesta de quinceañera, ¿han celebrado quién tuvo quinceañera? Yo tuve quinceañera, pero a los que invité eran a todos los viejitos de la iglesia, porque mis amigos y yo íbamos a comer pizza. Y la fiesta, mis papás querían tener fiesta, entonces dijimos, ok, fiesta, pero para todos los del culto, ¿no? Entonces, la fiesta es el vals, que tuvo hasta profesor de vals, se llamaba Martín Guapas. Y la ceremonia es que me pasaba de zapatos bajos a high heels. Paso de ser una niña a ser una adulta. Eso era la ceremonia de los 15. Eso es la ceremonia de los 15 en Ecuador. Ahora, lo que quiero decir, I am not trying to criticize all our things and saying, oh, I'm wearing high heels. I'm just trying to help you understand, and help all of us understand where these concepts come from and how sometimes they apply and sometimes they don't. If you go to the hospital wearing high heels, no, don't go to the hospital wearing high heels because you will go clunk, 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 clunk. And Wendy will know where you are, no matter if you have the pager or not, because you won't make too much noise. Nurses wear.
I do. When I wear shoes that are hard, you do, you make a lot of noise.
Yes, and then it's easier and more, like, it is more comfortable to have foamy shoes. Now, if you have rubber shoes, then she will know where you are because you will go, wee, 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 wee. Have you heard any noise, like a nurse going, wee, wee?
Yes.
Okay, so, yeah.
SpongeBob.
But if you go to the court, and you're gonna interpret for a deposition, dig your heels and bring them back to the stage. Maybe you need to wear something, I'm not saying wear heels, but, you need to dress. So, being a professional means responding to the situation in the most appropriate way. You're not gonna go into a session that everybody else is wearing scrubs and you're in a skirt with high heels, every situation calls to something different practices, different fields, of course. But there's other things. What else do you see there that you like?
I like the materials to consult. I think that's important. Have your pen and your something to write with.
Yep. So it could be, John mentioned, you mentioned your dictionary, you show them materials to consult before the session and during the session also. Apps,
For apps, yeah, I like,
I use word
word
reference.
reference. Yeah, that's my favorite too. There's another one,
I
I think you told me about, called, I wrote down, lingo.com. You said that.
Yep.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Lingo. I use both Word Reference and Lingo.com. They're really good. Yeah, so what else? So, materials to consult. You also can, sorry, I don't know. Yeah.
I have a question about that actually. So she has like a badge there, but I don't have one. So is the company that I work for doesn't give me one. So is that technically part of the one or?
You need one. You need one. Make yourself one and tell them to give them to everybody else. They should have some sort of identification. Yeah.
I don't, then I expense every company or some of them.
If you are from the Hispanic Center and you have your ID, but if you go to St. Mary's, you need to have their ID too. So you have one for the Hispanic Center and another one from the St. Mary's. You go to Metro, there's another one. You go to Spectrum, there's another one. So you know, how many do you have? Well, now you have.
I have a lot.
I also have a lot. I have right now. I still have the Mercy one. I don't have a Hispanic Center, by the way. I have to make one. Yeah, here. Danny has the one from the Hispanic Center. Mine, I gave it back because it was also the key for the center, so I had to return it. But and then I also have one for the airport to go in and out, and so the airport. I go to the airport. So depending on where you go, you should have, but you have to have something that says interpreter. In the event that we went to, I was Maria. My name was Maria, and there were some people that I know and I met before. They know my name, and they were so confused. One of them said, "Hi, Maria." And I could see his face going crazy, but it is very important because if without that, you don't know. That nobody knows who you are.
Sometimes, the troopers don't have a badge, they get confused with badge number.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, that's true. Reliable transportation. Did you mention that, John?
No.
Do you remember when you called me, you said, "Oh, good, you see that if my car just died." Do you
Oh,
remember?
yeah.
That can happen. It can happen. It happens to everyone. But as an interpreter, and this is also part of your practice as a contractor, you need to have reliable transportation. Things happen. Like, things happen. You cannot prevent these things to happen. In that situation, it was just life. But an interpreter cannot professionally interpret if you don't have reliable transportation. It's just, too difficult. So that is something, it's an investment, and you can write it out of your taxes every year as part of your, you can write out tear and wear, use of, what else?
Well, it depends. If you're an employee, you can't.
Yeah, if you, as a,
But if you're a freelance interpreter, if you're an independent subcontractor, that means you work for agencies, but they don't, when they pay you a paycheck, they don't take any taxes out. And at the end of the year, you don't get a W-2 tax form. You get a 1099 tax form. The 1099 doesn't take any taxes out. That means every 3 months, you have to make a tax payment
Just gonna ask you
out of
about
your own
that.
pocket. And, what was your question? Getting off.
my question was about mileage, tear and wear, and use of transportation.
So if you're an independent subcontractor, then you can claim all of your miles. But it's, you really have to talk to an accountant. Get an accountant. Don't try to do your taxes by yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how do I go about that, cause I've already been for like over 3 months, and I know I have to pay taxes, and I don't know where I go for that. So I have to pay taxes.
Are you independent or are you?
Well, right now, I'm working, well, I don't know, I'm working for 2 companies, so like, I'm working for Associated Language Consultants, which is smaller, and then I just got hired through the Voices Girl.
And I know Voices does subcontracting. At the end of the year, you'll get the 1099, which means you have to pay your own taxes every 3 months. I would talk to an accountant now because there's a penalty at the end of the year if you don't make payments
Right.
throughout the year. You have to pay your taxes every 3 months.
I'm so glad we had this conversation.
Yeah,
But
I
you
was
have to
thinking.
figure out say, okay, once you've done your first year, you can estimate the rest of the years. Or you have to, but really in documenting your first year, you have to detail, the date. You don't necessarily have to say the time, you have to say what date you traveled, where you traveled, and how many miles to and from that place. And
Sure, I know.
it's and you wanna keep a log in your car if you can as to what, every time you travel from one job to the next to the next. And some accountants will say that everything's deductible. Others will say you should only deduct, it depends on how many different places you go. If you only go one place all day, then that's, in theory, that's not deductible. It's because you're going to work, you're going home from work, and that's not deductible. But it is deductible if you go to work, and to another place, and to another place, and to another place, and then back home. You don't deduct, you don't get to count. When I say deduct, I mean claim it as a loss. You could say, oh, I lost this money because I paid it in gas and mileage. So you cannot deduct going to the first place and going from the last place within a 10-mile radius.
There are a number of apps, especially with your car insurance company, that can track your driving record in your car, and there's ways to tag them. So they'll work-related, leisure, family, and that way, at the end of the year, you can what it has residents in. And a lot of them, I mean, if you have Google on your phone, it's actually been documenting your driving, and there's a way to retrieve that information. And that's either a good thing or a bad thing. Think about that.
So I am looking for the form, the mileage form. This is something, this was a headache for me.
If you wanna make your own forms though, you can do a spreadsheet, on Microsoft Excel or that kind of spreadsheet that just has a category at the top. You put date, location, and, miles traveled.
See if we can show you the form. If you work with an agency like the Hispanic Center and you're being hired, then you receive one of these, you have to, here, you have to, keep these every month. If you work on your own, you still should have, these organization, basic organization of where to go. Because, as John says, you can write it off as an expense. So you're separating your money that you're gonna be paying at the end of your taxes, but you need to separate also your expenses so that you can write them off and subtract from what you open. If you don't do that, you lose the benefit. Like, anything helps. I was just looking at my paper store today, and that's all of these things. But I found, the other day I went to the Goodwill Industries and I made a donation and they gave me one of these little forms and I put it here and I just found it. I don't know where I put it now. I just found it. If I don't keep that at the end of the year, you can claim it. So the same thing happens.
Say claim it, like, it's usually I get returned. So, do they just subtract that from the money that you're supposed to pay them?
Yeah.
Oh, so nice.
See,
I'm just really curious because I know that.
Yes, your accountant or whoever's helping you with your taxes will take all your expenses. They will say, according to my calculation, you made this amount of money in 2018, and then you have to pay this schedule. You should have paid this, but from that, you had the following expenses. Those expenses have to be subtracted from what you made, because you never actually pay for those expenses with the money you made. So they're writing it out and they're lowering that. but not everything applies. I did not know that if the car wasn't designated, you could have claimed tear and wear.
What do you mean designated?
Like if you don't use it just for work. Like if you use it, but.
I did not know that.
It's worth it to talk to your accountant about that, cause I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, I've been told by my accountant that that's how it works. But you never know, I mean, I don't know tax law, I just know what they tell me.
So you have to have a family car and a work car.
I never have done it that way, but I don't claim wear and tear, and I don't claim oil changes, I don't claim maintenance. If it's your company car and you only use it for work, then every repair you make on that car, claim that as a loss. One time I had to replace an engine, and it cost me $700 plus a bunch of mechanic work, but, I've also replaced transmissions. That's really expensive, that's a couple $1,000. So sometimes it costs you a few $1,000s, but if that car is not designated as only for work, then nothing's gonna, I cannot tell the government, yeah, that car cost me $2,000.
So what if,
There's no deduction.
so what if I buy a new car and designate that car
Then
for
you
work? Then I can claim
Then
that
you can-
cost of the car?
Yes, you can claim just about everything. You claim the payments. You claim as a loss, you claim it as an investment for the business. Because it's a business car.
So this is for
But you have to register that car as a business car under the car insurance. And if you use that car for personal use, and it's an accident, it won't be covered because it was used in COVID. So you're opening up a whole can of worms of questions.
Can you repeat that last sentence? I'm sorry, you said it won't be covered because it's a what?
because
Because
it
it
was
was
used
used
in
in COVID.
Like if you use it to go to the supermarket, you crash it, claim it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because it's not for work.
For nothing?
you would be paying coverage for your job, but if you are in an accident or that you were going to your something else and it was personal, there is a potential that they won't pay. Like, I know that when I use the KDL vans, I cannot transport my children. Because if I have an accident in the van with my children, first, I'll be fired because they told me not to. Second, they won't be covered. But if your children want to work for me and dress in the KDL costume and go like that, I can transport them because that's work. If your children, we are in an accident, they'll be covered. So, there's weird things like that. Now, this is the form that the center uses for mileage. So you claim the date of the engagement, but of course, if you are a regular interpreter, you will have 5, hopefully, 3, 5 interpretations a day. Then you have the appointment ID, which is kind of like the code that the company refers to that appointment. Usually they have a way to track those appointments, in this case, it's Fluency. Then you have the customer name, in this case, customer means who you're working for, who the Hispanic Center is working for. But if you are working for the Hispanic Center, then you put customer name, Hispanic Center. Customer name, Voices for Help. Customer name, because it's yours, right? And the service recipient is who you're working with. You're working for the Hispanic Center, that you're serving Mercy Health. So they are receiving the service, or you're the Hispanic Center, your client is Mercy, and the service and the recipient is the 9th floor labor and delivery,
Oh, the department.
the department,
Oh.
So that depends. And then how many miles? So that's the thing. If you're working for the Hispanic Center, you're an employee, the miles will start at the Hispanic Center to wherever you go. If I live in Zealand and I have to come here, first, those miles don't count. But if you are working from you and you are providing that for them, the miles will start at your house or your place, or if you have an office, your office. Now, what happens if you go over there and then you cannot claim the mileage from your house to to Mercy and back. Because you went to Mercy and then you went to Metro, and then you went to NIT, and then you went to NIT. So then you have to claim that, you have to keep track of the mileage over here, and over here, and over here, and over here, and over here. So it becomes a little complicated. Otherwise, you will have to.
There's another complication too. There are agencies that will pay you if you travel outside of 10 miles.
Yes.
So those miles, they cannot deduct as a loss because you
They're
get
paying, right?
reimbursed.
Yes.
So, right, and so you keep that in mind. Those first 10 miles, yes, they're a loss.
The Hispanic Center
If it's
does not pay,
more than
Voices for
one.
Health does not pay within the 10-mile radius. If you go after that, then they will pay. But if you do anything between, you don't, and most of it is there. So that you can write out. But it's complicated and you do need to pay attention. Otherwise, it's expensive. And I would say there's also dynamics within the organizations. The law is not black and white, so it can be interpreted, so the organizations can decide what they do and what they don't do.
I have a question. Why is it that, as an interpreter, a lot of people don't take out taxes? Is there a reason why they don't do that automatically?
You're an independent contractor.
Because you're,
Because if you're an employee, the law says that you have to receive there's a minimum salary per hour per state, right? There's also things that they have to offer you. They have to pay you FICA, which is going to your Social Security later in life, etc. They also have to pay mileage, certain things. But if you're not an employee, if you're a contractor, then you are providing those for yourself. You have to pay for your own things. Now, if you are a person that is only working for the Hispanic Center, and you don't have any other engagement with anyone else, and they can tell you when to be, where, what to do, etc., under the law, you're not a contractor. You are an employee. So the center encourages people to work elsewhere because that's what defines you as a contractor. If you are only working for, it's like, okay, you are my maid. No, I'm sorry. No, that's terrible. I am your maid. I am your maid. Okay. Then you tell me when to start, when to come. I only work for you, and I work every day. You cannot say that I am your contractor. I work for you. I'm your employee. So under the law, you should be paying me FICA, you should be giving me some benefits, right? So like what people sometimes do is I will call you contractor and I don't have to pay you any of these things. So no, Sarah, you're my contractor. So send me a bill every month, but that's breaking the law. Because really, the person is working for you, and you should be paying these things. Now, under these, interpreters are usually contractors, because no agency can fill your schedule, and John can talk about these a lot. No agency can really fill your schedule all the way.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna ask, so then I would be.
You're working in different ones.
Working already for.
And you're
more than
working,
one.
so you are providing services for the Hispanic Center, for Voices for Health, for Interverse Connections, for whoever, for bosses, whoever. So you become your own contractor, you send bills to them. Sometimes they have their own ways to receive the bills. So they, like liaison linguistics, or even the Voices, they will tell you, use this format. So you send a bill every month, and you have to use their format. But if you are your own contractor, you should have a format for your bills with a number that says 001, 002, 003. So this month, I work for you, and for you. At the end of the month, I say your bills. This is number 001, number 002, number 003. You pay me. I reimburse myself. I keep track of my taxes. Next month, same thing. Now it's 004, 005, 006. And you are your contractor. You are your own boss. That's how we work this.
But you have to be careful, if you're your own contractor. Because once you are working for an agency, most of the time, the agency will have liability insurance. And you do not want to contract without that liability insurance. Heaven forbid, you misinterpret something or somebody thinks that you did a perfect job, that somebody thinks that you did, and you have a lawsuit.
And Maria, you're coming next, we're gonna have a break, and then Maria, you can explain this a little bit more, because you have better understanding. Liability insurance is important. The reason why the Hispanic Center has a contract with St. Mary's, and I could say this, I was involved in the whole process, is because of liability insurance, and also because we have a relationship and we try to work together. Liability insurance is extremely important for organizations, like big organizations. One liability claim, one lawsuit can be millions of dollars.
So basically you're saying that, the contractor has to have liability
If you are your own contractor, you should have your own liability insurance. Like, but, the Hispanic Center, all employees from the Hispanic Center are under that liability insurance policy that the Hispanic Center pays.
Okay, as a contractor.
As employees. As contractors, and this is new, since all this started, I remember speaking with Carlos Pava about this, there was nobody that was providing liability insurance for subcontractors.
So where do you find this?
Wait. So then we contacted them, we went back and forth, the only company was in California. Now you are able to provide, so the Hispanic Center has a policy that covers subcontractors now.
Oh.
But it's new, it is not malpractice, it's only liability. Okay? And it's that their policy is $3 million, I think. $3 million, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this is the thing. Because we work in healthcare, St. Mary's would love for all these agencies to have a malpractice. But no agency is offering that for interpreters yet in Michigan. There's one in California.
So this is an instance of malpractice.
Malpractice is for healthcare. So it's different than liability. It's a very, very different. In the amount of reimburses and also the risk factors. Now, if you are a contractor on your own, depending on how much money you should have your own liability insurance. And you can market yourself like that. Go to the Hispanic Center and say, I'm my own contractor, this is my price. Oh, by the way, if you are your own contractor, nobody can tell you how much they're gonna pay you.
Okay.
You can tell them, I charge this. Yeah, and then they say yes or no. They say yes or no. So my rate is this. So you don't go and say, how much you pay? You say, I charge this. This is my price. And they say, sorry, no, too expensive. You can put your price. Now, if you're starting, obviamente, you start with what they ask you. Right. Usually, in certain rate, depending, Voices has their start rate and the Hispanic Center. So when they tell you it's a negotiation, it's a conversation, they say, we will pay you this, you say, well, I want this, and then they say, it's a conversation because you are a contractor. The Hispanic Center has their own rules, they already know how much they can pay, so they will tell you. You can say yes or no. Okay, that's your rate, awesome, but we can pay you this. Okay, well, yes or no. It's a conversation. The relationship as an employee is different, because now they determine how much they pay you and how they raise or what's the structure. It is a different type of relationship. Yep. He said, I don't want to take too much time on Maria, but so the form is that, and the rate over here, this little rate over here that you see, that is determined every year. The IRS determines what is the rate every, depending on how businesses are. When the stock market and all that stuff is going up, then it can go up, and sometimes it goes down, depending on how the gas is doing during the year. So this year is 1.54. This 2017 is 1.54, correct?
For what?
For IRS rates. We can Google it.
For IRS.
We can Google it.
Yeah, sir, it's 54 cents.
Yeah.
It's
You
54
say-
cents for every gallon, I mean, for every gallon, or every mile that you travel. For every mile that you travel.
Oh, yeah, 54 cents, oh, yeah.
54 cents, yeah.
Yeah, that's the minimum, right?
That's the
Yeah.
standard.
That's the standard.
But,
Beginning in January 1960, that's the standard. Yeah, sorry.
but I wanted to say that, and an agency doesn't have to pay you that though.
Oh,
It's
that's how much
reimbursement
it
fee.
is, it's costing.
That is the amount that your travel is worth to the government. So that's not the amount that your travel is worth to each agency. Agencies are not required to pay you that amount. They generally do, but some of them don't. So,
Depends on the state, because this is a national rate. And gas is not the same in California as it is in Michigan.
right.
So they have those considerations.
How much does the Hispanic Center pay?
I don't know. This year, how much are you paying? 1.54?
IRS, right, yeah. We have you to,
Usually
the
it's
state
the
standards.
IRS. In the years that I have been in the center, it has always been the current IRS. They found that. So,
It's a lot today.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm ready.
yeah, okay. So that transportation, that was long, require documentation. Remember that it's a signature, you need to have your signatures. You finish, have somebody sign it. I have issues where somebody complains, the interpreter wasn't here, and the interpreter came and said, look, there's a signature, and hopefully the signature is legible. Cause sometimes it's like, yeah, I was there, and you look at the signature, it's like, I was like, who signed this? Who is it, you know?
It's obviously a doctor.
That's the problem. Okay, technology access, honesty is very important. I consider that one of the main qualities of an interpreter. Honesty, transparency, like integrity. These two people over here, I have proven over the years the amount of integrity that they have. I don't think there's a more important quality, John, than integrity. An interpreter. If you ask John if he was there and what time he got there and when he was left and who spoke with, he will tell you. It's so difficult when you ask and the person tells you half truths or you don't know you can read them. That is a problem.
If you're late, be quick to say you're late. Don't try to hide it, don't try to, sorry, I was late.
And you can't teach integrity to a person. It's a decision.
It's a part of the wow.
Yeah. Timing, I have problems with that. I have problems with being on time. But you know what? My father was always late in life. Always late. It was crazy. People make jokes about that. I'm much better. But I'm not good. Not to be standards. And I always have to be conscious of that. So I struggle with that. And I struggle for many reasons. Now I live far, now I have kids and things, I can have all kinds of excuses, but the truth is that once you get there late or you're not prepared, like it shows. The day that I was here late, you saw me getting como una gallina estrucada. Porque así pasa, ¿no? O sea, si uno no está preparado, no llega salado. So, don't be late. Y luego, este es muy importante, knowledge acquisition discipline. I went to bed at 11:45 yesterday night. My husband said, why are you so late? And I said, I was reading. Oh, okay. I like you like to read, he said. I have made it a discipline. I know that if I don't read, I know that if I don't study, I'm gonna be lagging behind. I have to be reading, not only these materials, but I need to know what's happening in the news. I need to know, I need to form an opinion. I have to be informed. If you don't have that discipline, start. Not because you wanna be cool and know all about it, but start. You need to be an informed individual. You need to know what's going on. Even read the local news. Sometimes I don't know if you get the Business Journal from Grand Rapids, but there's so good news there. You know what Mercy Health is doing, you know what Metro is doing. You can be aware of all these things. So So that is, what?
What's the name of it, I'm sorry?
The Business Journal, Grand Rapids Business Journal is a newspaper. You can get it online too. A lot of local people that are involved in this community that you probably know appear there, you know. Maybe you will appear there one of these days, who knows? You know, it's a pretty good way to find out what's happening in the community. If you're a business, if you're a leader in the community, if you're an interpreter, it's so good. It's so good to know what's going on. Maria keeps me on my toes sometimes. She brings an article or something new, or she points out something that we should know, brings me something printed, and you have informed me over the years about so many things. So we'll take a break, and now we're gonna have Maria. Please go and relax a little bit, and then we'll have Maria.